Hi guys, it's Mandy. Welcome to my channel. So I want to go over the tool that I use most often when I'm looking to purchase a new investment property. If you've been in real estate for a long time, I'm sure you already know about it. But if you're fairly new, like I was when I first started, I had no idea. I didn't know that I could find all of this information and that it was public information. So what I'm talking about is your county assessor or appraiser. Depending on your county, they may call the position an appraiser or they may call it an assessor. But basically, your assessor keeps track of certain information that is public information, and it's really useful to know if you are trying to find a good deal on an investment property. We actually closed on 3 properties last month. 2 of those houses were like a package deal. We bought them together. And for that deal, I relied on the information that I got from the assessor's website to make the deal happen. I'm not going to waste too much time making an intro and just talking for a long time. I'm just going to show you how to use the assessor's website. But one thing that you should know is that it's going to look different for every state and for every county. And some counties may not have this information on a website. Even though it still is public information, you might have to request it through email or going in person. But I will say that most counties should have some type of website. Even my small little rural county does have a website, and it's pretty user friendly and there's a whole lot of information there. So let me show you. Okay, so one popular way to find an investment property is driving for dollars, I think what they call it. But basically just driving around your town and looking for a house that either looks vacant or it looks like it really hasn't been cared for, and then making an offer on that property. So how people go about finding the owner is using the assessor's website. So we're going to search Jonesboro. And instead of driving around and finding a rundown house, we're just going to look on Zillow, but the process will be the same. Okay, for house for sale. Okay. Now, Jonesboro is in Arkansas. It's one of the 3 larger towns that Arkansas has. I do not live in Jonesboro, but we're just going to pretend that we're driving around Jonesboro and looking for a good investment property. Let's see. Okay, so let's go with this one. This is, yeah, I think if I was out driving around and I saw this property, I would think I might be able to get a good deal on it. So we're going to assume that the only thing we know about this property is the address, and we want to know more about the property, and we also want to know who the owner is. Okay, so you have to know what county you're in, and I know that Jonesboro is in Craighead County, so I'm going to search Craighead County Assessor. Then you may have to do a few trial and error to actually find which one is the assessor's website that you're looking for. I happen to know, because I live in Arkansas, that they're usually always on this arcountydata.com, so I'm going to click there. Okay, so we have the real estate records, and we can search the real estate records here, or we can search the tax records. And if we have the option to either search real estate or tax records, I prefer to search the tax records because I like to know if the people are up to date on their property taxes or not. And also because from the tax records, it always links me back to the real estate records as well. So we're going to search the tax records. All we know is the property address, so we're going to try just searching the property address as is. And we're going to see if that comes up. Okay, so it looks like we found the property. Here it is. And that's great. We can click here and find a bunch of information about the property. But I want to show you something else. So we searched it and we were able to find the property. But if I type avenue all the way out and then I search it, nothing comes up. That's because how they have the address entered in, they just have the abbreviation. Now, sometimes they have the abbreviation, sometimes they have the whole word. You have to search whatever they have, and that sometimes makes it difficult to be able to find the property on the assessor's website just from the address. You have to do a little bit of trial and error to find out how they have it listed in their database. Okay, and then even shortening the avenue to AVE, it didn't pop up either. So we're gonna leave avenue completely off. And there we have it. Here's our property. And how it's entered into the assessor's website, there's no avenue at all. It just has Johnson and the street number. So just be aware of that, because sometimes you can try searching several different things and then still not find it, and it can be really aggravating. Okay, so here we have the property owner, and he is also the taxpayer. Here's his address, and it's different than the property address. So that means that maybe this was an investment property, and maybe we could get a good deal on it. So here's his address. You could also try looking him up on Facebook and messaging him. I've done that before. And I've also Googled the person's name and been able to find their phone number that way as well, though I will say that's probably pretty rare. So here's the taxes, where he paid the taxes. And this is kind of interesting sometimes as well. So he paid his taxes on the 16th. I believe taxes are due on the 15th, so he's kind of late there. But here's the receipt, and you can see that he paid for his personal property taxes, but then he also paid for 3 houses as well. So you can click and see these houses as well if you wanted to, and click the parcel there. Going back to the property, so it's not letting me click the parcel number from here. It's just showing me the tax information. So usually this parcel number, you can click on that and it will take you to the real estate records. It's not letting me do that. I found sometimes certain times of the day, it's weird and it won't let you click. I have no idea why, but let's just try it and go back to the real estate records and search the real estate records. So the search is a little bit different. We do know the owner's name now, so we could try to search his name, or we can just search the property address again, and we'll do that. And here we go. And this is the property information. So the parts that I use most often are the owner's name and the owner's mailing address, the sales information, the sales history for the property. It looks like this guy bought the property back in 1997 for $11,000. So that just gives you an idea of how much he paid for the property, and maybe an idea of what he might be willing to take. So usually people aren't going to want to take less than they paid for the property. And taxes, this shows what the taxes have been on the property the last 4 years. Here's a picture of the property, the square footage. It shows that there's no basement, and then just a little bit of other information. This isn't always that helpful, but just some other information here as well. And the picture's nice because you can verify that you're actually looking at the right property. And here's just a little rough picture of the lot. So all of that is useful information to have about a property. You might also want to search his name now. Let's try that. We're going to search his name, because if he's selling one property and it's an investment property, he may have other properties that he would be willing to sell as well. And you can see here, it looks like he owns 3 properties altogether. I'm assuming one of them might be his personal residence, maybe not, he might live out of state, but one of these may be his personal residence, and then he might be willing to make to sell 2 properties as a package for a better deal. So that's one way to use the assessor's website, would just be to drive around, find the vacant property, and then figure out who the owner is and find out how to contact them and make an offer on the property. Let's go ahead and try this for a different state, just because I want you to see how different the assessor's website can look from one state to another. So let's just try like Kansas City. City, Kansas. Okay, and it actually lists the county here for us, so that's nice. Let's save that because we're gonna need to search for that county. And okay, let's just look at this one. This one's an auction property, so we'll just look at this property right here. It's not beautiful, but maybe we could get a good deal. All right, so we're gonna search the county and assessor. So right here, this is an example of a county that calls the position an appraiser. So if you're searching like, I don't know, White County assessor and nothing comes up, you might want to try White County appraiser. This site is a lot different from the Arkansas site. It looks like here's some search options. So we could search by the owner's name, by the address, or by the parcel number. So let's do that. Let's because we've already searched by the address before. It'll be very similar. Usually if you're looking on Zillow or realtor.com, you should be able to find the parcel number by going under more information on the property. So here it is. And if you have that number, it does make it a lot easier because like I said, that address can be really touchy and it can be hard to know exactly what to search. But if you have the parcel number, I mean, it should be pretty straightforward. And here it is, just verify that the address is the same, and it is. Let's click on this property. Okay, so this is a lot different. Here's the property owner and the owner's address, which is different than the property address. Not really any other useful information here. It does say that the year built was 1951. Sometimes I question how accurate those dates are because I think for properties that were built before the assessor's office really started keeping good records, I think it's more of just an estimate. But at least in Arkansas, I think sometimes I question how accurate that information is. But maybe in Kansas, they did a better job of keeping records. Here's some other possibly information here. Okay. So actually, this is a lot of information. Okay. So here's a picture of the property. It looks a lot different than the picture on Zillow, but it does look like it's the same property. They have painted it. Unfortunately, they chose a really ugly paint color, but anyway, it does look better than it used to. It does look like they have a section for building permits, which is useful. It looks like they added the garage to this house in 2008. It has the appraised value of the house, which isn't very high. And let's see. They should have the square footage somewhere around here. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. It's only 980 square feet. And here's like a little, this is what the house looks like. It does have a basement. I'm not sure how they come up with 980. It looks like it's 800. It looks like the house is 840 square feet. Maybe they're counting the garage as well. And then there's also a basement that is another 840 square feet. That's what it looks like from this information. Okay, so that's useful. Here's a picture of the property. You can click on that. And yeah, property was in rough condition when they took this picture. And then the comparison sales. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this comparison sales is probably not very useful. I think you are gonna be a lot better off just to really know your market and to know what the value of the property is worth after it's been fixed up. I think by the time we look at this, it's probably gonna be outdated. I don't see how they could really keep this up to date. And also it's not loading. Okay, so it has finally loaded. Like I said, I don't think that this is terribly useful. Let's see, the sales date is down here, and it's like 2017, 2018, 2019. So these prices are already outdated by the time we're looking at them. I guess you can see this is comparing it to a whole bunch of houses that have central heat and air. Our house that we're looking at doesn't have central heat and air. So you know that the standard for houses that are similar and in a similar area is to have heat and air, but this one doesn't. So I guess that there is some information that you could take from this that would be useful. All right, so that's the assessor's website. I'm sure if you play around with it for your county, you'll be able to find some information that is useful. One other thing that I do use the assessor's website for is whenever I'm tenant screening, the tenants, there's a spot on the application for them to put who their current landlord is and the current address that they live at, and then also for like their previous address and their previous landlord. And then I will search their current address and see if the owner matches who they say the landlord is. There may be some situations where the owner wouldn't match the landlord, but in private rentals, I would think like 99% of the time, those two names should match. I really can't see a reason why they wouldn't match unless they're going through like a property management, but then that would be clear. So I do usually try to verify that the landlord name that they have given me does match the owner of the property. And then I will just real quick tell you how I use the assessor's website to purchase the last two properties that we bought. So like a year ago, I saw these two properties come up for sale on the MLS, and they were both tenant occupied, and I figured they were both owned by the same person, probably a landlord who was just looking to sell his rental properties and just be done with having rental properties. And I remember thinking, those are almost a good deal, but not quite. Like they're just listed a little bit too high. I'm gonna wait for them to price drop, and then I'll make an offer on both the properties and hopefully get a really great deal. Well, I watched the properties for a while and they never price dropped. And it didn't ever look like they really had an offer on them. I never saw the listing as pending or as contingent or anything like that. They just sat there and no changes. And then one day they were just off the MLS. So I wasn't sure if, well, maybe they sold or maybe the owner just took them off. And then about 3 months ago, I was really wanting to purchase another property. I needed something to do, and I had a lot of people calling me looking for rental properties, and there were some big positive changes going on in our town, and I just really wanted to buy another rental property. But there were no good deals. Everything was listed super high. Some things were selling over list price, and just houses were selling pretty quickly. So there was really nothing on the MLS that would have been a good investment property at the time. But I thought about those two houses and I wondered if they had actually sold. So I looked them up on the assessor's website and I looked at the sales history and I saw that there had been no recent sales for the properties. So I figured that they probably had not sold. Enough time had passed that if they had sold, it should have been recorded by now. And I saw nothing. Then I found the owner's name and I Googled his name, and crazy, but I found his home phone number. And I called it and it was actually his number. And I asked him, hey, are you still interested in selling these two properties? And he said yes, he was interested in selling the properties and that he would love to show them to me. So we met out at the properties, he showed them to me, I made him an offer and we shook hands. Then I went over to the title office and I told them, hey, we're gonna buy these properties. Here's who we're buying them from. Here's who's buying them. And this is what we're paying. And then they got all the paperwork ready and we bought the houses. The landlord, he's in his 80s and he was just looking to retire. And I wanted to buy a couple more properties. So it worked out really well for both of us. And I wouldn't have been able to have made the deal happen without the assessor's website. Anyway, I hope this information is useful for you guys. I will see you next video. Bye.